Hello and welcome to Campaign Comrades, your favorite leftist gaming podcast. Boys, you guys ready to become real estate moguls, run an upscale brothel, influence Japanese tax policy, and help some misguided schoolgirls sell their used panties? Let's build up some heat and dive into the wild world of Yakuza 0.
I'm fucking ready.
Wow.
I left my job as a tenant attorney and I'm ready to become mogul moves only. Let's get into real estate. Let's get some Airbnbs.
See, I assume
swimming in yen.
Yeah, I assume like anything, this video game is 100% accurate to what it was like in 1989 Japan. So I'm going to build a time machine and go back in time and relive the glory times before everything got bad.
One of you want to buy the panties.
One of the YouTube videos I watched in preparation for today to refresh my memory for today's episode was one of the, most weeaboo videos I've ever seen. This guy is, clearly a Westerner who seems to speak Japanese and has went on a trip to Japan and was filming and had side-by-side shots of Kamurocho and the real district in Japan in Tokyo that it's based off of. Is like, here you'd see this sign and here you see this, and like, look, it's exactly the same. Oh my god,
was he like a 6'5" like Midwesterner?
Probably. You never
like
saw his face.
250.
You never saw his face.
It was a great video. Don't get me wrong. It was a fantastic video in retrospective on is like why Yakuza 0 is like the best prequel in media. And it was really well done. But I was just like, all I could think of was that meme video I sent you guys a while back of the Joker, the Jonkler and Batman. It is, what are you, some kind of weeaboo? And it's just like, this. So we are at the final month of the year. It was my turn to dictate to the rest of you what game you would play. And I chose Yakuza 0, which even after all the, amazing games I've played this year, it's in the probably the top 2 of most fun I had while playing a game this year. When we get into our episode in a couple of weeks, I don't know what I'm like. One of the final questions I'm going to pose to you guys, spoilers now, is what was like your game of the year? And it didn't have to be a new game. What was like the best game you played? Yeah, Bluey, the video game. What was the best game you played this year? And I'm going to have a tough time. This one is really looking to go all the way. Like I remember texting you guys when I was playing it because I played it a while back now, and it was just like, it's for me. It kind of started off a little slow in that first chapter, like going from what I had heard about this series, about the, kind of the absurdity and the tonal changes that made this series unique. I was like a little concerned that like, oh, I'm like, I've maybe had like 10 minutes of gameplay and 3 hours of cutscenes.
There's a lot of cutscenes.
But then as soon as that, like they have some ground to cover, but then as soon as that, it just fucking takes off, and it's like a masterclass in pacing, in tone, in everything. I ended up, it's like one of my favorite stories in video games that I've experienced. And I have a few brief things to discuss about the franchise history, and then a very brief plot summary of the game. But before I do, and then I want to just quickly open the floor to you guys. What were your like initial thoughts and experiences of playing Yakuza?
So my initial thought overall when this game was suggested was that it was just blatant Italophobia, that we weren't doing a true mafia game from the motherland. We
weren't doing the Sopranos video game.
Yeah, the PS2 Sopranos video game prior to this. That we went with the fake mafia first. So that was.
I'm going to chime in right here and say I do not endorse calling the Yakuza the fake mafia, and would like my head to stay attached to my shoulders.
That's right. I could make a call to the real ones if I need to get my back. So
Mike, I don't think the quote unquote real mafia is sending their best anymore. If they could be taken down by those like by fucking Rudy Giuliani, I don't think you want to be standing behind them.
I mean, 90s Rudy is different than 2020's Rudy. Let me tell you.
I don't know. I think he was
tell
pretty
you
much the
something.
same exact man as he's always been.
Or at least he had better people around him
Sure, maybe.
He wasn't
that were
using
doing the
Chinese
work.
motor oil for his hair dye.
Yeah. But so that was my initial impression. And then, you know, I think Ben, you scared me a little at first with the amount of reading. But
I warned you. It's like, yeah, you can technically play a dub of this, but it's obviously superior in its Japanese voice acting. It was like, yeah, Mike's gonna have a tough time. It's a lot of cutscenes and a lot of reading.
You can there is dubbed. You could change it to dub. I didn't actually look even.
Don't do it.
I don't know why you would.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah,
it's bad.
But the text moved like quick enough for me that I could, it was at like a good speed of
you read the subtitles and then you skip fast. You don't need to like watch the whole.
Yeah, exactly.
There are some,
and it had good mechanics for that.
There are certain cutscenes where I will let the audio play out after I'm done reading, just because the voice actors do deliver some good emotional reading.
You never want to skip past what is always the end line before a fight. Always sublime. They put so much passion into it. It's amazing.
Otherwise, once you get into the actual gameplay, the fighting styles were awesome. My biggest gripe with the button layout, though, this is what I'll say: A and B should have been switched. I didn't like that B was grab instead of dodge. I think that dodge should always be a B or an X or whatever, circle or
I definitely prefer a
square.
Circle or B as a dodge button.
Yeah, so
I don't know how much it plays into it, but in Japan the X and circle mapping are reversed.
Really?
For all games.
For all?
Yeah, because that's what X is a affirmative and circle is a negative or something like that.
Well, that's what it is here. It's all for PlayStation. X is always confirm.
Oh no, then it's the opposite.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah,
Got it.
That does make a certain amount of sense. X as in no, don't do it.
Yeah.
That does make a certain amount of sense.
And in a lot of the mini games, when you do the right thing, you get a circle if you do it, or 2 circles.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just like I kept going to dodge, and like my instinct is to hit B, or circle, whatever, and I was just grabbing people. So
yeah, I don't know if this game had. I don't know if this game had the abilities to remap.
Yeah, I didn't even that.
And it's probably just on the tail end of or before those kind of accessibility options became the norm.
Standard.
And some Japanese games still kind of struggle with maintaining accessibility standards still to this day. So not surprised that there's a little bit of
don't poke Japan too hard on their history of accessibility in general. That's a closet they don't want necessarily opened up.
Starts with section, ends with a number of some sort. You say, doing an interesting experiment. Say it turns out if you skin the body of a Chinese boy, he dies. Very interesting. For science.
Our hypothesis was correct.
I mean, sometimes you have to prove they're not aliens, right?
Jesus Christ.
That just reminds me of that Family Guy joke where it's like the Japanese boardroom and there's one Chinese guy. Should cut that in. Great scene.
No.
No, we're not inserting Family Guy bits.
Especially if you only audio.
Yeah. The for me, I think first, Mike, I do just want to say know your place. Don't talk about those dirty A and B buttons on this podcast. Okay. we keep it to X's, O's, triangles, and squares here.
Unless we're talking
Hey, I
about
said both.
Nintendo.
Yeah, fine, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, then it
but-
would be
And
B
Nintendo
is
is reversed, so it's
Dodge.
correct.
Yeah.
But for me, I struggle like speaking to just like the accessibility. Like this is also a game that, released as a release on the PS3 and PS4. And there's a little bit of that PS3 game ness to it that I sometimes struggled to separate from the game itself as, a piece of media or art even.
What do you mean by that?
Like just
the jank. The jank
yeah, just
was
the
a li-
general
was
jank.
a little
was-
strong.
Yeah, it
I
really
kind of
is.
enjoyed that.
I do too, but in things like you commented on like a stream earlier that like the mini map
Yeah.
is kind of trash.
But once you change it so it doesn't stay locked, it's so much better. It's like it's night and day. I mean,
I didn't do
I
that,
do
but-
agree with you that I prefer the, compass at the top, but just switching the mini map so it acted like a compass rather than a static map was huge gameplay development for me.
I didn't really have a trouble with the mini map, but I just knew the layout of the city.
Yeah, but you also
Yeah, 'cause
use
Matt-
spatial reasoning for your job.
Again,
Where
Matt is
I use
also
words.
the real resident weeaboo. That again, he's probably looked up the videos, the side by side videos of.
I haven't
you know,
actually. I
Camarocho
wanted to go into
and-
this completely blind.
It's like, yes, I recognize this street.
No, the tree's actually supposed to be 27 centimeters to the left.
Yeah.
And that's right. I use centimeters. Was that the end of you, Andrew?
yeah, you can jump in.
Okay. I wanted to make sure it wasn't a dramatic pause and we were just going to let it run out for a second.
I mean, this game is full of drama, so it fits.
Absolutely.
Yes, of course. I was really excited when you picked this game because Yakuza is a series I'd been meaning to touch, but like there's just so much shit to be able to get into.
Yeah.
A series this long that has like a decent chunk of games in it already. I'm glad you picked this one because I would have been significantly more upset if I had to start somewhere later in the series. Like if you picked Yakuza Like a Dragon, I would have been grumbly because
Right.
I would have had to do the math and logistics on playing all 6 prior games.
I mean, including 0, that's 7.
Yeah.
It is 7 because this is the prequel. But yeah, that's the thing. What makes this game great and was made it a good choice is that it is the perfect entry point. And it is a point about the franchise that I want to bring up in a minute, but I'll let you finish your thoughts.
Like one of the things that I noticed immediately is like the scope of the game is I like the scope. It's not too big, it's not too small. Like
it's just right.
Yeah, like you get Majima's area is, a little more condensed, but he doesn't have as much to do, so you either sit the cabaret club forever and raise all your hostesses up to max level. I have definitely not done that. I definitely don't have 100,000 fans, and can't just walk the streets and be paraded by my people.
It's a true populist game.
Yeah. And then you get the curious side where it's, a little more opened up, but what they do is they keep everything a little scoped down, but they give you so many things, so many little mini games, so many little, like, you can get fucking drunk and have it affect your gameplay. You can go play darts with prostitutes. You can play 9-ball billiards.
You can literally just sit down and play mahjong with a bunch of old grandmas.
Yeah.
Mike's grandmother would love Yakuza 0 because you could just go in and just play mahjong all day.
Honestly,
I was having trouble getting out of the arcade because the arcade is so, like there's so much. I enjoyed playing the Sega arcade games.
Yeah. Space Harrier was fun. Was always fun.
Yes. Always love Kyoko.
I mean,
All right,
even
bud.
just like the sub stories or like gaining friendship with someone. Like I became pretty good friends with the cop that stops you all the
Yeah,
time.
stop and frisk, dude. He's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
You just
You
give
know,
him
and then
you
you
give him.
unlock a mission.
What's he doing with all those tissues? That you
Yeah,
give
I
him?
just give him tissues.
So
I gave
what
him
is he
tissues
doing?
and some food sometimes
What
because I
is
thought
he
maybe he was
doing?
hungry.
No,
All
I
right.
enjoyed meeting Mr. Libido, just dancing in
Yes.
his underwear in the
The,
streets.
Yes.
the walking
Great.
erection that
Yeah.
he's named at one point. Yeah, he's a real one. But
No,
speaking of real
it,
ones,
God.
the series creator Toshihiro Nagoshi. So little bit of background history for you guys on the franchise and some points that are worth discussing. So Nagoshi was a prolific designer and director for Sega. Before this series, he worked on franchises such as the Virtua games, like the fighter games, which were bigger deal than I think there was a Virtua Racer too.
Yeah,
He worked on Shenmue, which you can kind of see a lot
you
of
can
DNA.
you see all the DNA in there.
Yeah,
Shamu?
Shenmue. It's
Shamu?
like
The orca?
no,
Or orca
Shenmue is like
homie?
one of like the kind of foundational open world games.
Yeah, because you have to remember, there was a time when Sega was also a console company, so these were
Yeah, in Shenmue you
their
could
console
in
sellers.
Shenmue you could
Shenmue
literally
1, 2, and 3 were like generational tech upgrades.
you could literally become forklift certified in Shenmue.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
you can work at the you can dedicate time in your gameplay to work on the docks as just a man loading and unloading fish.
mhm. He Nagoshi also worked on the Super Monkey Ball series. I know,
Ooh,
which is
hell yeah.
big from all our youths. And that's just a few of like the kind of more well-known franchises that he worked on. But throughout this time, he dreamt of making a game based on the Japanese criminal underworld that he had seen produced in manga, movies, and novels, but never done in video games. He first pitched his idea for the story to a famed author of Yakuza crime dramas, Hase
What are you an
Seishu.
old what are you an old grandma from like the Northeast adding an R to your A's? The Drammers. Want to get me a soda pop?
He
Uh,
also called it manga, and I just let it slide.
instead of manga.
Yeah,
Uh, so Hase Seishu is the pen name for Toshihito Bando. Bando, yeah. I apologize if I butcher
yeah.
any of
No,
these names.
we have
So
Western Devil tongue.
yeah, he himself had previous history in game development, but like was primarily focused on his novel writing. But the two collaborated and were able to convince Sega to publish the first game. Seishu himself worked with Nagoshi on the sequel, so Yakuza 1 and 2. Sega and the publishing partner, Sony, were originally hesitant about the subject matter, believing it had limited appeal, but Nagoshi persisted and the series became a smash hit in Japan. It did struggle to gain traction in the West, though. After poor sales of Yakuza 4 and 5 here in the West, never achieving more than a cult status, Sega was toying with the idea of ceasing any future Western localizations.
Wow.
But their last push was with this prequel, Yakuza 0. They made a and they made a bet, and it seems to have paid off. Nagoshi and his
Are you
fellow
telling me that
producers.
they looked into the camera and said, "All right, bet"?
Right. They they convinced them to take one last gamble on the series, and they bet correctly that the game would, serve as this ideal entry point for potential new fans.
Well,
Which
did that spark a whole bunch of remakes and stuff then? Because is that what created
Kiwami and
and
Kiwami 2 were coming out at around the same time, because there's also a confusing bit of timeline shit going on, because up until Yakuza 0, the releases in the West were always well after the fact of.
Well, yeah, that's sometimes pretty common, especially with Sega. For a long time, we'd only really get like Persona on time,
And so I think that's a reason why you feel the jank of the previous generations, is because they're working still with kind of older engines at that point, because again, they've already been out. These games have already been out for a while in Japan, and they're just getting, basically ported out to the West. So I think that kind of
Because localization takes time too.
right. But they laid down their money in it, and it has proved successful. That there's increased global sales. The game was released to critical acclaim and has sold an estimated 2 million copies worldwide, which makes it the most successful game in the franchise to date, at least in terms of reported numbers. It's an interesting test case. How we almost didn't get this game. We almost didn't get any more Yakuza games out here. They were basically it's not doing so hot. The devil Westerners can't appreciate the fine art and basically cinema quality that we're presenting them here. And we gotta say props to Nagoshi for pushing Sega to release this one, because I've kind of just really now fallen fully into this story and this franchise, and I'm never looking back. I'm really excited for what the future holds for the series.
Do you think that the amount of reading in the games was what did it for the Westerners?
I don't know, because they do have these English dubs, and plenty
Even
of,
in the older.
Yeah, and plenty of Western audiences use the dub, hence the quote unquote drama over the new voice actor for Kiryu in the new upcoming one, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, that people are ragging on the new English voice actor, and there's people doing the crying Wojak versus the Chad, it's you use the dub, weakest sub enjoyer type thing, is that's a non-problem. The sub is just so superior. Just learn to read and you're fine. I know that's
that's what I'm saying. Some of those sentences are complex. They're not just simple instructions. There is meaning that needs to be gleaned from the text. Normal Americans can't do that.
I think it is possible. In being serious about it, it's their reliance on story being a huge driving point is probably what was a speed bump for Western audiences. They just want give me beat 'em up, give me funny, silly, mini game, and that's all I want. And they would find the rest of it a bit of a slog. But people have pearls before swine, basically, is how it I would read the situation. Although we are realizing that we in the West have no tangible culture of our own, so we must enjoy the culture of others.
Only the culture we steal, like the Italian culture, and then just water it down with Olive Garden.
Don't you come for Salt Garden, in the chat.
You don't speak on Olive Garden. Olive Garden's a fucking hero in this house, you hear?
Don't you dare. So sorry, I cut you off, Matt. What were you going to say?
All I was going to say is I speak on behalf of all of the semi-illiterate, functionally literate engineers of the world, and I could understand the sentences just fine.
Yeah, but you're not the audience I'm talking about. I'm talking about the students that I used to teach that play video games, the people that they grow up into, that they leave high school with a second grade reading level because our education system is doo-doo trash asshole.
Let me ask you something. How many text boxes do you have to read in Forklift? Zero. That's right.
Yeah.
Best game.
No, so there's definitely a text that pops up that says start.
Yeah, but you could also
probably
hear the beep.
There's probably text
you gotta
boxes
read
in the when you buy your V-Bucks.
Yeah. Well, you only have to read the text box confirming you can charge mom's credit card.
Yeah, those are just instructional and very simplified.
Those UI designers know what they're doing. It's like
Yeah,
click shiny button for what you want.
They've
For the
gone to
good- for
some
the
very
good thing.
manipulative HR like marketing trainings that use child psychology.
They got the black hat psychologist there.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
if there's an entire career built around the functional layout of stores to attract people to the back of the store, to drag them through every aisle,
To buy all
and
the
then put
corn,
all the shinies
to buy
right
all
where
the
they're going to
corn
be standing in
slurry.
line.
Yeah. There's a video
Like, of
game.
course, they're going to apply that same concept and principle to UI and software.
Of course.
Like they want to make sure they drag you 7 or 8 layers deep into a UI, and then they show you the shiny, and you're like, "Ooh,
This would be
I've
this would
earned
be a
it.
great
I've earned it. It was a journey to get here.
it'd be a great bit to kind of pull out or continue with the corn to forklift analogy. Forklift is the corn slurry of the American video game market.
Of course, but that is for a different. That's for another
Yeah, but
time.
now they have Peter Griffin and Solid Snake in Forklift. So
Yeah. Has
Dude.
Kiryu ever been in Fortnite?
probably
I
not.
don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
Pretty
think
sure.
so.
Pretty sure.
I mean,
Sega
MLKJ
doesn't,
was.
link with them.
I mean, I feel like there's been plenty of there's plenty of other Japanese media.
Well, like
figures
I don't
that
think
get
Sega's done
involved.
anything with their Persona, and that would be something that would probably cross over, like a Joker skin.
A Jonkler.
You need a Jokar skin.
All right, so should I just give a brief rundown of the plot summary? I avoid any major spoilers largely for you guys because I don't think any of you have finished the game, right? Like,
Yeah, but I read all the plot
so that's an
stuff.
interesting question though. Like, how far have you guys gotten? You can give me in terms of like the chapter if you know it, or the most recent kind of plot development. I would maybe hesitate on that just in case some of you are farther than others, which I would assume. So what? Yeah,
I'm exactly 3/4 of the way. I'm in the midst of chapter 12.
Okay.
I'm in chapter 8, I think. Just started it.
I am also in chapter 8, but I'm also 50 hours in.
Yeah, you've been.
Hey, I'm 30 hours in.
no,
I'm not.
you guys have put some time into it for sure,
and have 60% of the completion list checked off.
And by that, do you mean like the completion point things, like those little rewards?
Yes,
Things?
run 10,000.
You're farther. You're
like
farther there than I am.
Yeah, no surprise there. But that's what I found beautiful about this game, right? Is that like you can put in as much or kind of as little as you want. You can just mainline the story. You can sink hours and hours and hours into designing your perfect pocket racer.
Yeah.
Like
That's
I
the
forgot
one I
about
haven't touched yet.
Me,
and that's
yeah,
the scary
same.
part.
I want to go back.
Oh boy.
See, like for me, like the mechanic that I liked really just did not touch at all was the item crafting bit from Majima's story, like the
Making weapons and stuff.
Yeah, where it's like
I didn't make any. I
you
just
send out
with
agents.
lots of money to
Yeah,
get stuff.
You're sending out spies to bring you back materials from the Chinese restaurant, and it's like, I really did not get like any deal with that at all because I hardly ever used weapons, particularly with Majima, because he has a fucking baseball bat. Like,
But some of the weapons are cool.
Unlimited.
they're cool, but you don't. It's like, but it's an unlimited baseball bat. I'm fine. All right,
and the unlimited baseball bat has some combo hits that just
some absolutely insane moves. I love it. But yeah, I want to talk to you guys later about your favorite fighting styles. But let me just do a quick little plot summary to kind of refresh our memories. So Yakuza 0 takes place in late 1988 during the bubble era of Japan, which is just this economic boom, as we see, and there's plenty to talk about in terms of the economics represented in Yakuza 0, and like we can dedicate maybe some time to that later. It's an interesting, nuanced, I wouldn't necessarily say explicitly left take on things, but there is some interesting points to kind of pick out from what it is offering. But it's like
I
this
would
very
say it's anti-financialization capitalism, though. Like it's
but some of the conclusions it comes to in certain plot lines are still
Yeah, that fair enough.
somewhat like just like left liberal, probably. Like, you know, if you see Kiryu's mini game, like business mini game through to the end, where you defeat all the billionaires and spoiler, you flush out a secret billionaire. Once you defeat him, you literally just have him get arrested by the cops, and it's like that's just, you know, again, a liberal fantasy of, you know, how, you know,
Should have been executed.
it was like, or just of how that would work, you know, very like the system would not just, you know, or like the
Breed
system
another.
would even hold a billionaire to account, you know,
Only
is
in President Xi's China does that
Yeah.
happen.
well, they become a party functionary whose wealth is appropriated for the, you know, the good of the party.
Yeah, and they're still alive.
All right, so
Hold on,
yeah,
one other thing I wanted to
go ahead.
point out about the time period and in the setting that you know, because I think Matt, I don't know if you said it earlier in the pod or if it was before we started recording, like wanted to go back, you know, go back to that golden era. Another reason why they had Quaaludes.
yeah.
You know,
But the
Quaaludes still
style,
exist.
the
Yeah.
style of the 80s is just was
Yeah,
really
no,
fun
I
to
was
look
more
up.
thinking of like, you know, walking down the street and there's a gold Lamborghini parked in front of the disco.
It parked in front of the Don Quixote convenience store, which are real things, by the way. And that was one of the things in the videos. Were like,
Hell
this
yeah.
Don Quixote is in the exact same spot as it is in the video.
Oh, that's
great.
awesome.
That's fantastic.
You know, with people lining up to
Unlike-
buy the new Dragon Quest, which happens in the game.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I would like to compare this to our last video or our last podcast on a game where Spider-Man, terrible copy of New York
Recreation of the
City.
city.
Yeah. Whereas
This is
one
quite faithful. It's quite faithful. I do still think it is probably more similar than you'd think, because again, we are outsiders. We are gaijin when it comes to this, like that to like a actual resident of the area, they're probably like, yeah, like it's close, but like in terms of like, yeah, there's a Harlem, there's a village, there's you know, the financial district, but like the proportions are not correct. So
I mean, there's
it's still
barely Harlem.
yeah,
So,
but
and there's no upper Manhattan.
yeah, but it's probably closer to that. But
Did,
still very faithful.
Did he happen to show the panty vending machines?
No, I don't
Were
think
those
so.
faithful?
That would probably get I mean, we know that they're faithful, but like would probably get him demonetized on YouTube.
Are you talking about the panty raid?
So this game is told from the dual perspective of franchise mainstay Kazuma Kiryu and his longtime friend / rival Goro Majima, the latter making his first debut as a playable character. He became
cool. I didn't know that.
he became a playable character in Kiwami 2. I believe it's Kiwami 2. I think so. Yes.
What's
Kiwami 2.
But before
Kiwami?
that, he was just
They're
a
just
spoofing
remakes.
his character,
They're
right?
just the remakes of the original
Got it.
2. It's like Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza Kiwami 2 are the remakes of Yakuza 1 and Yakuza 2.
Got it.
So they added it was like a prologue section where you play as Majima in Kiwami 2 that actually has some has a little bit of some payoff from Yakuza 0. Again, spoiler, you meet I'm blanking on her name.
Makoto.
Makoto. You see her again later on, and there's a bit of an interesting resolution with her in Kiwami 2. But yeah, so this is the first time he has a first and only time outside of that prologue in Kiwami 2 where he is a playable character. The story takes place before the two of them have ever met, and builds the background for each character's history and personality into those that we meet in the original series. Kiryu's story revolves around his role as the junior Tojo clan Yakuza in Kamurocho, who is forced out of the clan due to a murder accusation. Majima's story centers around his forced exile from the clan, working as a cabaret manager in Sotenbori, which is also based off of a real-life district in, I believe it's in Osaka. But yeah, he's got to run this cabaret to earn enough money to get his way back into the clan through service. Both the protagonists are drawn into a conflict surrounding the empty lot, a small piece of land in Kamurocho that the Tojo clan wishes to acquire for a redevelopment project of the surrounding area. One of just like the I loved how simple that element was, right? It's like that this whole sprawling drama focuses on this little square plot of land. It's just like
Well, when everything is so already built and tightly packed, something that is completely open and yours to choose.
Well,
And it's
and
so
also
small.
like in real, it's very real life to me, because real life,
right.
the small drama, what you think, something you think is small ends up being the most dramatic, like, convoluted and, conflicting, brings you into conflict with others, in that way. I think they do a good job of capturing that.
So at the center of this controversy is Makoto Makimura, whose involvement I will hold off on discussing due to potential spoilers for you guys. The primary antagonist of Yakuza 0 is the Dojima family, a Yakuza family within the Tojo clan whose patriarch, Sohei Dojima, wishes to become the next clan patriarch and seize power through this development project. Under his command, he has 3 lieutenants who are the real, physical antagonists that you face against. Daisaku Kuze, Hiroki Awano, and Kaiji Shibusawa are the 3 lieutenants who are being charged with tracking down the empty lot's owner and taking out Kiryu and Majima in the promise that whichever of them brings Dojima the empty lot will be made the next family captain. And that is the whole kind of scene that there's a whole bunch of elements there. Like I didn't mention like the character of Tachibana and Tachibana Real Estate that serve as the proxy for Kiryu's mentor, curiously similarly named Kazama Shintaro. It's like you've got Kazuma Kiryu and Kazama Shintaro. It's a little weird. It's a little tricky at times, but he was like the previous family captain who's in jail right now. So but basically, he's kind of orchestrating things from the shadows, but is the mentor to Kiryu, and Kiryu's oath brother Nishikiyama, who is another important character from the first game of the series.
I really enjoyed abandoning him in the woods. That was a great.
That's one of like the highlight dramatic moments, right? And it's one of again, it went from I mentioned at the top of the episode my concern with the pacing in that first chapter, but then once you get to the end of each of these sections where you're then switching to the next protagonist, you go like 2 and 2. It was just again this pure masterclass of how to do how to pace this story and how to set things up so that you want to get through to the next one, but then you also want to keep going and keep progressing, because you would get like a huge revelation or question at the end of one, and then you'd go to the next one that then itself would end in a similarly kind of mouth dropping revelation, and you'd want to keep going to the next with him. So you'd get like Majima has been tasked with assassinating Makoto Makimura before he knows who they are, thinks it's this guy actually, and realizes it's this woman who is has this tragic backstory, was like sold into human trafficking, and had like a psychological break that led to a psychosomatic blindness, and he's like tasked basically with killing her. And you see like he's escaped these pursuers, but he's got this knife and he's holding it over her, and it's like he's debating, do I kill her? Because if he does, he's back in the Tojo, he's back in the clan. Like, he doesn't have to deal with the cabaret anymore. He can with one fell swoop, and you're already starting to relate to Makoto, and you're seeing the bond growing between them, and you're like, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? And it cuts. And then you go back to Kiryu, and then that next section of Kiryu's story ends with that bit with Nishiki and taking him out into the woods, like, basically threatening to kill him because out of love, not out of hate, because it's like, I don't want to see what
a quick and
They'll do to
a
you.
painless
death
rather than to
versus-
see you tortured by the Tojo clan. So it's and you're like, oh, what's going to happen there? And it's just this, it's constantly pushing you to the next bit, and in
Those-
such an engaging
Like a
way.
good novel.
Those are two of my favorite cutscenes so far, or like the one with Makoto is a little bit more drawn out, but like I thought those were great storytelling segments. And I mean, the storytelling as a whole of this game is.
I'd like to point out that one of the primary reasons I'm probably not going to platinum this game is that there's a trophy linked to serving her cold takoyaki, and you have to wait 15 real life minutes after purchasing the takoyaki before delivering it to her.
And you can't bear the thought of not
No,
giving,
like,
of not.
why would I? How could I do that?
Not to her, say not to her, protect at all costs. Yeah. So, what are your guys' thoughts on the story to the points that each of you have gotten? Like, has it pulled you in as it did to me?
Definitely for me. I mean, the story is what has kept me engaged with this game to the extent that I have been, because as I kind of spoke to earlier, like just some of the jank, just for me, I'm kind of like a little prissy boy when it comes to my games, and it bothers me occasionally.
He's
And
a
the one other
spoiled
thing,
modern gamer.
I am, and the quest to like get the food for people, like just having to run around the map on fetch quests in the main storyline, those get to me a little bit. But the overarching narrative that is told in the way they present it, I think is really top notch. And I do also want to just call out one thing, which is that when they jump between the two main characters, they do recaps of what has happened, and I personally,
Yeah, they do
very
a
much
last time on
appreciate
Dragon
that.
Ball Z. and
Yeah,
that's-
it's fantastic. I very much appreciate
Because
it.
there are so many twists and turns in this story, and if you were just to, like, read the wiki of like what happens in the story, you'd be like, what the fuck is going on? There's names and revelations and
And then
whatever.
Kazuma fought Kuze in the sewers.
But I always
Yeah.
felt
That was
like
great.
I was always, oh, that's one of the best scenes where it's sewer jousting on a motorcycle.
Fantastic. I love
Um,
Sewer jousting on a motorcycle, and then I followed it up by like hitlessing him and just
Yeah.
beating the absolute
Hell
shit
yeah.
out of him.
Yeah, which was great. After, like, I struggled with the first boss fight with him, because I told you guys I hadn't figured out the healing item situation at that point. So I literally had like 2 dumplings in my inventory and was just getting fucking owned. And so I had to learn it to the point where
Time
I
to
did
get good.
I did the first fight basically hitless because I couldn't afford to not. But yeah, the progression of that is really fun.
And
I feel like
when he gets off that scene, when he gets off the motorcycle and he's dragging the pipe in the water
Yeah.
towards Kiryu, is just like a perfect tension building. Like you what is gonna happen? And
And
everything
I mean,
about
obviously, a lot of the best stuff, better looking stuff, is all pre-rendered cutscenes. And I know we've spoken on the PS3 era, PS4 crossover era jank, But I will say for a PS3 era, PS4 era crossover game, it does look pretty good.
Mhm.
I agree. I don't think the jank's very visual.
No,
You see
at
the
least like
you
it
see
plays
the
well in the
you see the
PS5.
occasional full body pivot when they're turning
Yeah.
when a character's turning
Yeah,
away. But that's not in the pre-rendered cutscene. That's always in like the
no, I'm
in-engine
like
stuff. But
he was talking about the scene when he's dragging the pipe through, and it's like
Yeah.
that scene is pretty like
It looks really good.
pretty good.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
The
Um,
like sparks flying at times, it looks good as
His
well.
tattoos are sick too.
Yeah, all the
tat-
tattoos are awesome.
everyone's tattoos are great throughout the entire
Yeah.
series.
Yeah.
My feeling throughout playing this game the whole time was like, this is like the best 80s action movie ever.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and it's like action drama, and
Yeah,
it's like
and
it's
they're,
everything
they're
good
doing a movie,
about
right?
it's everything good about that kind of era of movie with none of the bad stuff. Even the ironically funny parts, you know, like that. It's just like
And the pervy parts.
it's just like so good. It's just like
the real
everything.
estate speculation.
So
It's
this is
got
where we're all
everything.
gonna this is where we're all gonna slap it down. How many videos have you watched?
I felt shame after the first one. After
Yeah.
somebody
I
like
haven't watched any.
kept coming, you know, like as you walk out and somebody like, you know, laughs at you for being an old man going into the pervy parlor, and I felt real life shame, so I never did it again.
So back to like the plot and the how they deliver their narrative. As the resident ADD, can't keep his attention in a video game, needs to be engaged. I like we said at the top with the reading aspect of it that Ben was warning me about, and to prepare myself. I felt that, especially with the switching between the characters, they did a great job of it, keeping you engaged, wanting more, and quickly, as we're saying, quickly switching to the next character with this
Each
kind of like
2-chapter
cliffhanger.
chunk introduces just enough mechanic for the character
Yep.
that you can get a
That it's
nice like
new.
yeah, you can go perfect that new chunk mechanic.
Yep.
And then you switch to the next guy for the next 2 chapters. You get his thing. You come back, and now you're not just beating up dudes on the street. You got side stories you can unlock and do now, or you've got you got real estate to go fucking speculate on.
Yeah, and it's like, as a way of just even structuring a video game, that's a great way to keep people engaged by challenging you with this new mechanic. Once you've mastered the previous stuff, or you should have mastered it, we introduce this new one that's built on that, or built on older mechanics. You got to master that, so you're engaged. The gameplay doesn't get super repetitive as you're going through each chapter. And
I was
then,
thinking
like I
about it
said,
this
just
morning in
keeping
the
up with the
shower
story.
too. It's interesting because the two primary sub like components of each character, the real estate and the cabaret czar side hustle. It's interesting because the way they played out the real estate side hustle is much more hands off. There's a lot more you go, you do the thing until you get the S rank on all the businesses.
You walk around,
you walk away, and you
make a cool like 2 billion yen by basically not doing a whole lot. Whereas you do a lot in Majima's, and you're like, yeah, maybe you make 100 million on a service here, but like there's a lot more to it.
The reasoning for it is because Kiryu has so much more stuff to do in his city, as far as mini games and sub stories, and just generally more city to explore and beat up and do. That's why that one is more passive, and it's just got that timer that you have to play out. It encourages you to go out and engage with his other stuff. Whereas Majima's city has a little bit less of that, so they want you more locked in for 5 hours.
Like it does reflect real life, and that is basically you're a parasite.
Yeah. You're just you have money and you're giving it out to make more money, whereas Majima he's working that.
He's hustling.
You're the owner of a cabaret.
I think
you're working the floor.
I think the cabaret czar is a way more engaging
Absolutely.
of the two.
I want to put a quick pause in that one
Oh.
because I want to get to those questions of like what your favorites in terms of mechanics and different stuff like that. So I want to get to that. So first I want to just quickly go into who was your favorite character or characters from these different categories, because you can say which was your favorite of the two protagonists, who was your favorite villain, and any special NPCs that you want to shout out. So like start with protagonist. I will start with Majima was my favorite.
Yeah, I think you're gonna find consensus here. I feel like I prefer.
I love
Majima
Kiryu.
for
I
sure.
love
They're
Kiryu.
both great.
I really love Kiryu. He's a very interesting character, and like the kind of the reserved, quiet.
Ben, as a man of culture, will understand this reference a little better, but our listeners, if they're cultured, will understand as well. Kiryu gives me he's the Jotaro Kujo he's this badass, just walk around, kind of stone faced, beat you up if you get in his way,
brawler,
and like he's given you that persona, whereas Majima, he's Polnareff.
He's got the flair. He's got the flair.
He's got the flair. He's got I should say his name is Jean-Pierre Polnareff. You know, we can't
forget the French.
We don't want to short him of his French heritage.
Without being as cultured as you two, you know, I think those are kind of like apt descriptions of both of them and why, you know, and also Majima's got an eye patch and a ponytail. The fucking Riz is off the charts with that.
He's just wearing a tuxedo throughout the entire game.
Well, yeah. And like characters resonate with him so much, despite the fact that, like, traditionally speaking, you'd see what would be a former Yakuza member missing an eye, and, you know, you'd think, oh, you know, steer clear of that guy. Yeah. But he's a very genuine person, the way he comes off.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that a lot. And then you know, just his fighting styles, I think, were better than
fighting styles is another one. What's your favorite? So we will also get to that. But in terms of just pure charisma and personality and the story that as it involves, who was your favorite? And I think in all those fronts, it was Majima for me, because I found the relationship between him and Makoto to be so engaging and so you know, just so riveting to see them grow together, to see their personalities kind of blossom together, to see the tension of will they, won't they, to see the respect that Majima gains for her, the strength that Makoto herself shows through her journey is best seen in Majima's story. And I found that dynamic to be the most engaging part. Again, this is no shade on Kiryu. I find him to be very interesting as well.
This is not like, because we have to pick one, the other one is bad. It's
right, exactly. Just I want to make sure that is stated, because Kiryu is a great character.
I don't have a favorite child. It's clearly
there's a reason why he is the protagonist for basically the full series up until the newest games. Okay, what about villains? What about like your major cohort of villains? Who's your favorite?
So I don't remember their name, but the one that was on the motorcycle.
That's Kuze. That's Kuze.
Because he looked the most Italian, with the slick back hair and like the Polly Walnut style like glasses. Fantastic. Also, like to shout out I think he was the big man that you fight at one point, or like the big guy. He's like a small antagonist.
The boss, the guy who you think is Makoto, is that who you're referring to?
Yeah.
With the arm tattoos.
Yeah, he's an interesting character.
Yeah, he was cool.
He gets blown up in a car bomb.
Yeah, because he's like an anti-hero type character antagonist. I enjoyed his little arc.
He starts off as an antagonist. You fight him, and then he becomes an ally to Majima.
Yeah, so he was dope. But Cosimo Medici,
Kuze.
He was the dopest looking. Like, come on, he's fucking dope as hell.
I mean, he's
65 slanging 20-year-old poon.
Well, yeah, he had a certain air about him when it was like he introduced like he had this like I know I'm the badass in the room and like
Yeah.
can beat all these motherfuckers up.
It was very mafia.
And when you come up to him and he takes his shirt off and you're like, oh shit, this dude is over 60 and still built.
Stacked.
Gonna beat the fuck out of you.
Yo,
Um,
what's your splits, man? Give me the secrets.
So those
you,
were my
Yeah,
antagonists.
what about you two? Any divergence there or consensus once again?
I like Kuze a lot. I also like Shohei Dojima because I think he looks like a young Luis Guzman.
He does. He does.
yes.
He does actually.
Which made me laugh every time.
So for me, I'll just give a shout out to Awano
Awano is my favorite.
because there was something when you come into the disco and he's dancing.
Yes,
That whole scene
scene's-
play out and like the like I got like a dozen men outside with guns trained on the door. Like you either die
yeah.
there or like you do it. And he walks out and he's like, you can't fucking threaten an idiot.
Yeah,
Like that like
I should have known.
yeah.
So all three of the lieutenants are voiced by and modeled after three like legendary Japanese actors, and they just have this. They have this
Crazy.
gravitas and this swagger that they bring to these performances. I do
Well,
think
he was very real when he was talking to Kiryu. He was like, "Yo, I don't want to fucking kill people. I just want money. I
Yeah,
just
I
want
do
to
this-
take cars."
Yeah, I do this for the lifestyle, which is he's an interesting touch point for, again, the kind of the economic message that this game is giving about the era. And
Yeah.
we can further dive into that in our end segment.
Well,
but
I mean, not even just the era, but the economics of like mafia culture and like what they're obviously not supporting the mafia, but I am if you're listening, the Italian ones, but there's obviously evil practices within it, but like at its base is like trying to uplift otherwise kind of like, at least in the Italian case, like a marginalized group within their own region, and then
Well, it's
like supporting and
Tachibana
protecting
was
them.
trying to protect people from Yakuza oversight.
Well, and that's
again,
I think
Tachibana is again in a very liberal
Yeah.
fashion.
Yeah.
He's the good real estate guy. He's not the
Yeah.
outsider that is trying to price out locals. He's giving the homeless a job by scaring away the outside investors, and he's going to sell it at a reasonable price.
He's
see-
also doing the D&D campaign thing where he's injecting so much like manipulated money
Yeah.
into the economy.
ruining the local economy. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So that's actually I kind of want to talk about this, but we're still on the character discussion. But I do think from my read is this game essentially equates the real estate firms and those organizations to being the Yakuza. Like it even draws the parallels of when Kiryu is learning the business practices and they're like, oh, he's making fun of it. And he's like, no, you do the same thing with the Yakuza. You're not just thinking of it that way. And like, I think that is where I kind of see the political messaging of the game.
Yeah, well, that does kind of dovetail a little bit. One of my favorite NPCs is Oda, when he's the one who kind of gives he's Tachibana's second in command at the real estate company. He's the
I
one
got
who
the trophy for impressing him with my etiquette.
Yeah, who he's the one who gives Kiryu that lowdown. So he's a very interesting, nuanced, very he's a deep character for an NPC. I mean, like, he's not a good guy in any means. He's the one. And I don't want to get too much into spoiler stuff because I don't know if you guys have gotten there yet. But yeah, he's got some history that is very troubling, and he is by no means a good guy. None of them are, basically.
You said favorite NPC is what we're doing.
Well, I'd say we talked about villains, and that was just a dovetail. Yeah, it was dovetailing off that conversation into Oda was. I mean, I think everybody's given their favorite villain. So yeah, any other NPCs that were standouts for you? And it can be major, minor, main story, side story, it doesn't matter.
Makimoto's great.
Serious, funny, doesn't matter.
Makimoto's great. We already talked about Erection Man. Those are two of my favorites. The bartender. Hold on, the bartender at the Serena. I fell in love with her immediately.
Reina.
Yeah, Reina.
Boy,
couldn't remember her name. Reina.
Got some tough news for you.
Oh boy.
I enjoyed Bacchus. He was cool.
He doesn't actually say it. He doesn't actually say it, but he's very much a see type of voice acting is really good.
For sure. I liked him a lot. And then there was another one that was a standout. Oh, I liked the dominatrix.
Yeah.
I thought she was funny. And that was like a cute little
that was a cool side story.
Yeah.
That is another category I have here as favorite side story. So, but in terms of
we know
NPCs,
what everyone's favorite side story is.
I don't know necessarily.
As far as NPCs go, I'll just give a quick shout out to my number one platinum hostess, Yuki.
Is that the one you start? Is that the one you start with?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's got the best overarching like development.
That's the one that you have like the very first interaction with with Majima.
Yeah. Like if you foster her growth properly, she becomes the best hostess.
She was the first one that I really noticed the head thing that the female NPCs do.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to be sexy.
A lot of people do it. There are men who do it too in the game.
Yeah.
They do this weird head thing.
But I feel like they just do it more on the women.
There's some cabaret stuff where like she'll chime in occasionally, or like she'll tell you to go get vinegar, and you continuously forget to pick up vinegar, and she gets mad at you. Like little things. But yeah, you guys have touched on all the other good ones. I mean,
well, there was the guy with the coiffed hair.
Oh, you're talking about the he's the rockabilly guy?
Yeah.
The American punk rockers.
Yeah.
That's we should probably move to the side story one because a lot of the NPCs are linked to side stories.
We'll move that around and do side stories. Yeah. So what for you guys, what's your favorite side story?
I mean, it's got to be the panties. It's got to be getting the panties.
The stealth mission, the stealth mission to get the panties for the young kid, make him a man.
Oh no, I wasn't even talking about that one. I was talking about the one where
the schoolgirls, the schoolgirls,
where the boyfriend contracts you.
Thinks that she's selling her body and she's just selling her dirty panties and bras.
I liked that one.
I like that one of the options was telling them it was a hygiene problem.
I'm pretty sure that's the one I
we
selected.
shower and then we put them on immediately and then sell them.
There are a couple really good ones that like I know which one is my top, but like I just want to mention this one, the one where you help the street artist take a shit, the statue guy.
Yep, that's a good one.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Like you have to distract the because there's like a little kid and you don't want to break the illusion, so you got to distract them so you can go take a dump.
Yeah, you sing at one point.
Yeah, that one's really good.
Back to the dominatrix one. Another reason I like that is like all these little kids run up to them in like the park.
Yes.
and she's like, "Oh my god, what do we do?" Like the little kids, and he's like, "Keep in character," and he's like, tell me to look at you and only you. There's like no other distractions. Like, don't look at these children and get a boner. Get a boner looking at me.
So Matt and Andrew, do you have another standout?
Taxes one is good.
That was the one I was gonna call out, was the taxes one. I enjoyed that one a lot. I thought it was very fun.
Well, that one is very funny because there's like there's an interesting political message in that one. Like it's a little critical of I wouldn't call it, say it's not critical of, of left ideology or anything, but it's like it is poking a little bit of fun at the kind of the what's the word? I mean, it's kind of like the cosplaying of kind of leftist ideology.
Yeah,
Because you start off
it's the
with
liberal version of
where it's
taxes.
a bunch of suits harassing this bureaucrat, but they're spouting off things that are like would be like, leftist say rallying cries, like, like power to the people, and mass movements, and
Yeah. But really, your taxes go to Israel to bomb Gaza.
yeah. So that's a really good one. But then, yeah, you basically you instill the sales tax on the cigarette tax, which was always funny. Say it was a real tax that got implemented several years
Yeah.
later in Japanese history, and yeah, we can thank
No,
Majima for
that's a
that.
standout one. There's a couple of the like friendship when you do the friendship things that you have like some side questy side story stuff that you do, like the video guy. If you befriend him in with Majima, he'll eventually ask you to find. He's like, I work at a video store, and like all I see are all these same videos, so they don't work for me anymore. Like I need the best video. And like tells you about this like legendary porno that you have to go find him, and you go out and you find it, and it turns out it's the Ring video.
Hilarious.
We'll say, who amongst us hasn't been searching for that one video late into the hours of the night?
An allegory for the dangers of internet porn.
Yeah.
Another one that
Also,
oh, go ahead.
Phone
Sorry.
bag guy. That was my last one.
Yeah, that was
Because
good.
I liked the
Matt was so mad. He was like talking to me. He's like, I totally expected the end of that quest line to be that I got my own bag phone.
Oh yeah.
You
I wanted my character to canonically develop cancer from using bag phones.
You've got to run out and get him like 18 C batteries.
Two other standout sub stories for me. One was the "Will you be my boyfriend?" where Majima is the fake boyfriend. That was just like a good, interesting story one.
The twist at the end of the dad wanting you to be the real boyfriend.
Yeah. The dad was funny in that one. I enjoyed it a lot. And then I haven't finished it, but collecting the cards, the waifu cards.
Yeah.
And turning those in. I think the collecting of the waifu cards is just hilarious.
It's very silly.
It's amazing. It's beautiful.
Before I give my,
I mean, it reminds me of Vegas, because like I went to Vegas with the Boy Scouts when I was real little. Like
one day we're gonna uncover what happened. What truly happened at the Boy Scouts. We keep bringing it up and we're getting stories, and then just one day it's gonna spill
I mean,
out.
we went to Vegas. We were doing some whitewater rafting down the Colorado.
I know there's a lot of white water coming out of somewhere.
But when we were walking down some of the Vegas streets, on the telephone poles there were just prostitute cards attached to them. So we, being the honest, upstanding Boy Scouts that we were collecting them like Pokemon cards.
Hell yeah. Andrew, do you have another one you want to call out before I give mine?
No, I'm good. Everyone took the other ones that I would just
all I can say to you all is Munancho. Anybody?
Oh, the
cult one where Majima infiltrates the sex cult.
Amazing.
I love the guru. I love beating the shit out of the guru because he's a tough fight. He is actually a tough fight. But like the sex guru was just so funny. Yeah, he's just like, making up all this, new age spiritual bullshit, and is doing it basically to manipulate young women.
I mean, as all
which cult would do that?
Yeah, you've got to rescue this woman from a cult. And
is that the cult Shinzo Abe got murdered over?
No. It'd be hilarious though, but no. Yeah, that's a real, like, that's a South Korean Christian organization. Yeah, this is the Disciple of the New Order. All right, so that's mini games or sorry, side stories. I guess we can do mini games and then wrap up with fighting styles. Favorite mini games though, because there's
Cat
a bunch
fights.
and there are different tiers. Cat fight.
fights.
Andrew
Cat
just
fights.
There's cat fights. I
Oh,
haven't gotten
yeah.
to the cat fights.
You didn't find that?
Cat
No,
fights
that's awesome.
by
say
far.
Totally.
for his well-being. Explain the cat fight to him.
Yeah.
You get to there's some very scantily
cats?
clad women
Oh, okay.
that fight, and you get to gamble on them with a little rock paper
fantastic.
scissors mechanic. It's very fun.
Amazing.
It's a
I
pit
thought
of
it was
mud
cats,
too, right?
like cats.
Yeah, it might be mud. Yeah, might be mud pit.
It's pudding.
Pudding, even better. You get a little snack after.
Nickelodeon slime.
Yeah, that's my favorite,
I don't
hands
want to
down.
eat that, but there are different tiers to the mini games too, which I found very fun.
Yeah. No, that one's good. I enjoyed the baseball one, the home run.
Home runner, yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Batting cages.
I was really good at that one.
I mean, I loved the karaoke. I got
Yeah.
better and better
It's a
at it. I
classic.
learned to
It's a
put my
classic.
controller down.
Dude.
I had a 2-finger method going on. You know, it was working. I really was wishing I had Guitar Hero. I wanted to.
I like that there was a mechanic for like being a background. Because when you
For
do
cheer,
like, some
you
of the
can
dates
cheer.
with-
You can cheer
Yeah.
them on. Yeah.
yeah.
I loved when you were doing well enough that it would like put you in a music video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The music
That's cool.
video part.
That
Top-notch.
that first song that you play, as part of the main
Justice?
story, is
Kiryu's canonical
is
favorite
canonically
song.
his favorite song.
Amazing.
You sing
Yeah.
it in every game.
Yeah.
It is his favorite song.
So
I got a
that's
69
that's a
on that one.
classic.
I know you
my
said you
first try.
struggled with the disco.
I
Well,
didn't do it a
became-
whole lot to get good at it. I just I did it a couple times and didn't it wasn't.
I
clicking.
became one with the disco and can 3-star pretty much every song.
Amazing.
Because that's an even more challenging rhythm game because it still is
Yes,
a rhythm
for
game,
sure.
but it's
Because
way more
once I figured
challenging
out
than-
the way it works of like, oh yeah, I just need to like maximize the amount of squares I touch before I get to that one, and like the timing of it. Because there's a fun
too
side
much for my
quest
brain.
linked through with that where you like challenge a disco queen for her crown, and you have to go through her minions to get to her via dance battles.
We really are a study sometimes on different brain functionalities and
Yeah.
like modes of learning. Because that I couldn't figure that rhythm game out. Like the
Well, it was frustrating
karaoke was
initially,
enough.
but once I figured it out, it all clicked, and I was off to the races.
He was grooving.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was
a
never
disco
gonna
dancing
click for me.
fiend.
He was grooving. For me, Pocket Circuit is got to be up there because
That's the one I haven't engaged with
just
enough to have an
him-
opinion on yet.
Sirio showing way more emotion during by defeating a bunch
true
of
man.
kids because it brought out the Pinewood Derby memories.
I was going to say
in me,
that's
Hell yeah.
the part that I want to invest in again, is bring back my Pinewood Derby memories.
which is Kiryu showing more emotion beating a bunch of kids at an RC car competition than he does when his oath brother tries to kill him.
Again,
It's
just
like,
a typical man.
wow,
Like,
it's beautiful. Yeah, it's so
And
good.
would rather sit and play Pocket Car than
Then go to therapy.
But that's those are the actual true mini games, but you could still count the career
arcades.
Games.
Well, so you got arcades, you got
Oh.
gambling. Again, you can literally just go play fucking mahjong.
Yeah,
You can play
darts was
Baccarat.
always fun. I enjoyed darts.
But the
Cool.
one I spent the
Okay.
most time in was the cabaret management. It's
Yeah.
it's basically an RTS. You're basically
Yeah.
doing a
Yeah.
real time strategy
Yeah.
game. It was so fun. It had no rights being as fun as it was, and
I might or might not have maxed out all of my hostesses.
yeah,
You
That,
already
like,
confessed to
yeah.
that.
That one is up there for me. Telephone Club is hilarious.
Yes, that's
Did you go on the date?
Dude, Oh, that's just such a great like cultural thing that Japan has and like continues to this day having like, versions of that with like the loneliness bars where like men go
You
and
can
like
rent a girlfriend. You can get a
yeah,
government mandated girlfriend.
or just like there's specific bars where like the hostesses are there to be like very comforting to you and like do the most while you sit there lonely drinking and eating some
Yeah,
broth
we
soup.
were hosting a club that did just that.
Yeah, and the phone clubs is just like very interesting to me as well, especially in the age of like
That's actually a pretty
digital
cool mini game
dating.
too. Like a
Yeah,
pretty
but
tough
like
mini game.
in the age of swiping for dates, this is like a version of it that's kind of more personable because you're at least like talking to them right away. I don't know. I thought it was,
But
and it's just
millennials don't
random
talk on the
people.
phone. Millennials and
I
lower
know.
don't talk on the phone anymore.
Yeah, so this is 1980s Japan Tinder.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, no, I know. That's
definitely
what I'm
of an
saying. Like,
era.
it's interesting. Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep it moving. This is my final question for favorites is favorite fighting style with a subcategory of heat actions as well, if you have one. Those are tough because there's so many and you couldn't necessarily, name them.
I have one.
But I do have a favorite heat action. But what's fighting style?
I think
We're
overall
doing
I
just
like
one fighting style or one for each character?
We'll do one for each character, and then if you want to give an overall favorite, that's
Okay.
fine.
Just clarifying before we.
yeah, I was gonna say I prefer Majima's fighting styles a bit more. I think his blue one, I forget what it's called, but his brawl thug, I think was my favorite. Like, the
Really?
bat and everything is fun, but I really like the brawler and rush style for Kiryu. But I enjoyed that Majima was similar to kind of both of those in a way, but incorporated kicks
The poking
and
people in
other
the eye in the
and
thug
stuff that
style
my
is fun.
father taught me when he would like come around a corner and like fucking grab me by the throat or something and be like, "You got to be ready for anything."
Okay, we're
So
talking
I was
about
taught in the
how I
thug
need to
style.
unpack my Boy Scouts. We need to unpack you and your fathers.
No, I know what went on, and I was not molested by my father, so the Boy
Yeah,
Scouts.
but there's a different kind of
Open
trauma there.
question.
There's a different kind of trauma there, though.
Yeah.
All right. Who's next?
Interesting. For me, I'm a yellow. I'm a yellow guy all around. I like the
For
beast.
both of them.
Yeah, I
Beast
like
and
beast
Slugger.
and slugger. Beast picking up stuff easier is just a godsend. Mwah. And the baseball bat, using it like a nunchuck. I love that move.
Yeah.
I love that move
is cool.
so
You
much.
can just stun lock. You can just stun lock people
Yes.
with
Yeah.
doing that one.
That was how I beat Mr. Shakedown the first time, is because he couldn't figure out a way to get past the fact that he would just run into the baseball bat over and over again.
I love it. I love it. It's so good. That's my favorite by far. It's not
I
even
robbed
close.
Mr. Shakedown while he was laying down.
Good.
Yeah, I
Sleeping.
did that, and then he woke up and he took all my money.
Nope. I didn't get to that point. I wasn't greedy. I saw him stirring and I darted.
All right, Matt.
So favorite styles. I prefer rush style for Kiryu. I like the quick and stun good for stun locking. Beast is fun too.
Especially early.
That's a secondary shout out, but I tend to hang out in rush style with Kiryu. And then I am a slugger style all the way.
Mm-hmm.
2 swings and then the home run hit is the most satisfying thing to do. And I have done it a couple times where you can hit 2 or 3 people with it simultaneously for the triple knockout. Oh, it's great. But you said heat actions. There's a heat action you can do in breaker style where you kick a guy over the bridge or the railing to the river.
That's nice.
That's cool.
In the breaker style, there was also, I don't know if it was technically a heat action or if it was just like part of it, where you could spin on your head and
Yeah,
just fucking
that's a move. That's just a move. That's the crowd control move.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, so my favorite style, I tend to like all of Majima's better. For Kiryu, yeah, I liked the rush style, but in terms of particularly late game, B style is the most efficient and
Oh,
the
I'm in a
most.
room with a bunch of chairs. I wonder what I'm supposed to do.
It has the most utility, yeah, because it'll just show you there's a bunch of dudes and there's a shit ton of stuff hanging around. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I got to go beast mode. It's like I wouldn't necessarily say it was the most enjoyable, but like it became having the most utility, particularly in the end. But Majima's like I would have a tough time choosing between Breaker and Slugger. They're both so funny. They're both just so silly. And I love the breakdancing. I love the noises he makes while he's breakdancing. You've got some great crowd control moves, but yeah, nothing tops the just fucking teeing off on a goon's head with a fucking baseball bat. It's so much fun. But in terms of unique heat actions, my all-time favorite is when you have equipped a salt shaker and you do a heat action, you grab a dude, pull his head back, and dump the salt in his eyes.
Amazing, diabolical, and I love it.
It's so good. It's incredible. I highly recommend you buy a salt shaker just to experience that once. It's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. All right, so we're definitely getting there for time. So I just want to I kind of just want to end with some final thoughts here, and just like for me at least, what makes this series and this game in particular so special. And so we have talked a bunch about its economic, for this game in particular, its economic message, which I think is something that is important and worth diving into. And if you guys want to spend a little more time, we can. We have touched on that a little bit. But I'm personally more interested in what the game accomplishes with tone. So in the series, this is actually true for the series, but I'm specifically still thinking about this game because it's like on one hand, it presents us with the grim and alienating reality of violence that is a fundamental aspect of organized crime. But then on the other hand, the game seamlessly shifts into the absurd and like the heartfelt view of this basic weirdness of human life that you see with these side stories. Like things are just so odd, but it's just so true to life in that way. The shift here to these side stories, it doesn't distract from the pure drama of the main story, but it actually serves to reinforce kind of the moral themes of the story, particularly Kiryu's journey, as he is like struggling to retain a sense of duty and care for his fellow human beings that you see most plainly in his willingness to help those that he comes across. The random kid who's crying outside the arcade because she wants this toy from the claw machine. It's just this touch of humanity that you get through these kind of weird little side vignettes. It helps keep that kind of creep of cynicism from fully taking over that is really kind of it's really enticing after going through the main stories of all these backstabbing and people one-upping each other and the kind of the grim facet of life. It helps keep that in check and from keeping us from going fully overboard, at least mostly, as we see in Majima's transformation into his classic Mad Dog persona, because he kind of goes the opposite end. He does embrace the cynicism a little bit more, but still, however, he is able to retain that sense of loyalty and care for other people that he sees and encounters in his time, and that all flies directly in the face of the trauma that was inflicted upon him through his his torture, his exile, all that shit. And it really just like that is what stuck with me the most, is seeing this, what should be, you see the term thrown around a lot, tonal whiplash. That should be what's happening, but it never does. It's just constantly building and reinforcing on each other. So that's what I found so special.
In a way, as you're describing this, it was making me think about, and I was jokingly, making the point that we didn't do a true mafia video game before this one, but it was your description there is reminding me of what made The Sopranos so good.
Hmm.
And it has that similar, different at times, but that similar juxtaposition of and showing of truly what real life is.
It's a
not
strong use of
glorified
dissonance. It is a strong
dramatization.
use of dissonance in that you get that violence, the brutality, but
Yep.
then also the absurd. Because like
Yep.
as much
and
as
the mundane.
as much as The Sopranos, is about drama, it is also a comedy. And they're
And it has
touching
a
on
financial
the
economic
banality of kind of middle class existence. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
that's a good comparison.
and I think that, balancing those tones, and especially, going back to the plot of, how the narrative unfolds of these different perspectives. I think that tone also lends itself to that type of switching back and forth. And, we know that, Majima becomes, the mad dog persona. He goes a different way than Kiryu might. And, you could almost see those differing tones throughout, just those characters in and of themselves. So it's like at different levels, it kind of works out and really brings this strong, compelling, engaging story and gameplay, in a, I think, not so janky game, or at least I think the jank, gives it some personality.
It's charming.
Yeah.
I think part of it is like it really has, and I think this is what you're both speaking to, of like it has mastered walking the line of being serious but not taking itself too seriously.
Yep.
And like Sopranos is a great call out. I think that is another situation where you have similar aspects, because I just think even within those scenes of like where you have really high dramatic tension and plot coming together, there's still an element of all of those other aspects within that scene. Like, I'm blanking on his name. What's the A boss thing? Owano. Yeah, like the Owano dancing scene. Like that is a great tense moment, but at the same time, he's
incredibly
dancing with
funny.
this. Yes,
incredibly
exactly.
funny.
Incredibly funny. And yeah,
because it's true to life. That
exactly,
that's how life
Matt,
is.
you're muted.
And so I think you two have both nailed that, but that would add to it in that regard.
Matt, just making sure you're still muted, just in case you're trying. Okay, just didn't know if you're trying to say something. All right, yeah. So I do find this whole game to be just very special in terms of what it presents, how it does it, how it accomplishes what it sets out to, and it really just is something special. And I think that's that everybody should give a shot. It may not be for you, but I would kind of almost, at most, I would say people may bounce off the jank. They may bounce off the gameplay parts, like the mechanics, maybe the combat you may not find it as interesting or whatever. But like I feel like there's something for everybody here, and you can kind of get in at whatever level you want to. And this is just a perfect entry point into the series. I know that's not saying anything
new. You can
new.
call me a weeb all you want, but I find this way more engaging and interesting than GTA.
Oh yeah, people make that comparison. Yeah. Oh, it's Japanese GTA, and I don't think that's fair.
I don't think that's a fair comparison at all. And I think this is a much better story than any GTA game.
Yeah, the comparison's only there because of the crime and like third person perspective.
Yeah,
I will say just one last thing about the jank. What I found charming about it, and part of it is being a Sega game, is the fighting felt arcadey at times.
Yeah.
And that, framing it that way, it was just made it more enjoyable. It was just an arcade beat 'em up.
And I love the ability that like once you progress further in the game,
Yeah, you just throw money.
You can throw money.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
avoid the random encounters if you don't want to deal with it. Like
Yeah.
if that's boring you, then yeah, throw some cash. Hey, and
Run away.
and you're good to go. It's beautiful. So
See, I have problems because I just like to walk around and throw money to make all the people in Japan like me.
Go crazy. But so final question I have for you guys is will you keep playing this game? Will you finish it since you guys weren't able to finish it? And does it make you want to explore more of the franchise? I pretty much know the answer for Matt. I know the answer for Matt. I knew that before going into this, before even assigning it, that he's always expressed that this is a franchise he wants to get into. But yeah, where are you at?
So for me, I will definitely I probably will finish this game just at a slower pace because I don't think it requires too I can come back to this one pretty easily, I feel like. My issue is I want to play the newest games, but I don't know how I feel about the change to turn-based combat because I do enjoy the brawling, and
I didn't realize they changed
that honestly just I don't know that I'm undecided.
You're uncultured. I personally love the I'm really excited to get to the change to turn-based because I like turn-based better than something like a brawler. Not that I dislike a brawler, but I'm excited to get to that.
I enjoy turn-based as well, but I think having played Yakuza 0, and I frankly enjoyed the brawling. Like that was one of my favorite parts, is just running around, trying the different styles, different weapons, and just beating people up.
So the seventh game is so far the only one that's turn-based. The newest one that's coming out in January, 8 Infinite Wealth, will also be turn-based. However, what is currently the most current game is the spin-off, the Like a Dragon Gaiden. That's back to an action beat 'em up. Kiryu he's got two styles, a Yakuza style it's called Yakuza. It's basically just your basic thug style. Then he's got like an agent style because he's a secret agent, and you've got all these cool fucking gadgets.
Yeah, I might check that out.
So I'll definitely check out other games, and maybe even the turn-based. Who knows? I enjoyed the series. I'll definitely continue playing. I could never give a guarantee that I'll finish any game.
Yeah.
To full completion, I will get, as we say in the law, I'll substantially perform the contract. But I will, I will finish the game for sure. Because I've definitely enjoyed playing it. And I agree with Andrew that it's definitely one you could just come back to and pick up. It's not going to take a while to it's not like picking up Elden Ring again and getting that timing down. It's just like a fun game to pick up again.
So for me, I intend on finishing the game. I have my own layer of 100% I intend to do. All side stories, all like S rank, all businesses, and max out all of the hostesses, all that type of stuff. But I'm not going to platinum it. The platinum isn't in my wheelhouse for this. I don't want to replay the entire game again on legendary difficulty. B, I don't want to do some of the things you have to do for the platinum, like serve cold takoyaki. That's just against my morals. Takoyaki deserves to be hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I intend to completely, I'm torn on the fact that I do want to play the more modern ones, like a Dragon Ishin, and stuff like that.
One, yeah.
But my psychosis won't let me start until I go to Kiwami 1, 2, 3.
You could
4,
potentially
5, 6.
do what I'm doing, which is I'm currently watching the YouTube compilations. But no, hear me out. I'm just doing that so I can play the most recent ones now, and I have an intention of going back and playing at least some of the originals. Like I really want to play Kiwami 2. So far, Kiwami 2 is my next favorite in terms of story. Honestly, Yakuza 3 is kind of skippable. But I definitely want to go back and play those, but I really want to get to the current ones, so I'm catching up story wise, and I intend to then go back and play those.
So how I'm probably going to end up handling it is it'll be a series of games that I play, but I probably won't be doing like full platinum 100% for any of the older ones in particular until I get to the more modern ones, and then maybe I'll sit down, take my more time. I have to say more time because I'm probably going to take another 40 plus hours before I beat Yakuza 0. But
yeah, he's the real gamer here, folks. Never let that be doubted. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for going on this journey with me. I hope that it was not too tasking for you all. I enjoyed playing this. I enjoyed talking about it with you, gentlemen. And for those of you at home, I hope you enjoyed listening to it. We will be coming back for one more episode this year. We will be doing our end of year wrap up. And so, boys, I'm using this as your reminder to take some time. We've basically decided on all the categories, so spend some time. Make sure you've got some nominations for that episode, and we will convene once more before the year is out, and we will get that all to you before New Year's. I don't really think we've got much else to plug right now because we're getting into holiday season. It's just going to be kind of played by ear. So, however, if you want to support us, you can do so by following us on twitch.tv/campaign comrades and the YouTube channel, and be giving us those subby primes if you're so inclined. But that's about it for us. This is a bit of a long one. I appreciate the patience, and we will see you in the next year with some new games to talk about. Excited to lay that out.
Hell yeah.
But that's where we'll leave it for today. We will see
game number 1, Bluey.
Oh yeah, it's gotta be at this point. All right, we will
start and end the podcast with Bluey.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next one, folks. Bye bye.